Hello, good day. Today I'll be taking you as beginner on voter structure, what it involves, and how it is used to design a building. This is a voter structure app, and I've clicked on it to open up. Voter structure is actually an app that is used in design for buildings, for story buildings mostly. It's actually a very interactive application that helps the user. Is actually simple to use and is very interactive. Like I said, Prota structure has a 3D interface that allows the designer to see what he is designing and visualize it properly. Now for a new project, you click here, new project. Now you can put your project name, like I'll put 3 story as my project name, 3 story, because to be a 3 story building or structure we're about to design, and I'll click on OK. Now it shows you the various building code. I actually prefer using the UK BS 8110. I import it to my Prota structure. That's what I do. Then after importing it, I'm waiting for the Prota structure to load. Now while waiting for the Prota structure to load, this is the plan. This is like the page that is always going to open up once your Prota structure has done it loading. Now you can see from this that you can see how Prota structure is placed. Now the first thing I do most time when I start, I click on my axis. Click on axis, loads. You can see how to generate your axis. I hold my control to get a straight line. I click again, the axis is generated. I can offset my axis. You can see I press F2 and then I put the axis spacing I want. I click enter. You can see now I can keep on setting at 2000 millimeter if I want. Now I can also delete this axis. I actually don't like using the axis in generating an axis for myself. I prefer using the octagonal axis generator, which I'll show you in a bit. This is the octagonal axis generator. I click here. The direction 1 axis simply implies axis in the horizontal direction or in the x direction, while the direction 2 axis imply axis in the y direction or vertical axis. Now let's start with direction 1 axis, which is axis in the horizontal direction. Now in this particular orthogonal axis generator, why I love using it is sometimes the architect can give you your axis already. All you need to do is just to insert them here, or if you are the one that drew the building, you can actually generate your axis in AutoCAD, and this is what I have done. Now for the horizontal, you can see over here, this is my horizontal axis. This particular axis here is my horizontal axis. We have 1 2 3 4, and they are giving us 4000 into 3 places and 2000. So I'll go back to the Prota structure and I'll put 4000 into 3 places, comma 2000. Then I'll come for the direction 2, which is the y axis. I'll delete. I'll go back to my AutoCAD to see the axis that is there. Here we start with 1200, 4500 in 2 places and 4000 as the last axis. Now I go back to my Prota structure. I click on 1200, 4500 in 2 places, and then the last one was 4000 1000 and I click on OK. You can see my axis has been generated. This is the 1200, 450, 4500, 4500. This is the 400. Why this is from year to year, year and year, they are all at a spacing of 4000. Why the last horizontal axis, this point to this point, is at 2000. You've seen we've generated this. So the next thing I do after generating this axis is I always love having a 3D view. So I click on view, I right click, I click on 3D view, then I go to my window and I click on tie vertical, I left click. Now we've done that. The next thing we need to do, this is the 3D view and this is the plan view. Now the next thing I do is I try to state what I'll try to state my insert my story. How many story would I like I told you earlier, I wanted a 3-story building. I want to design a 3-story building. Now when adding story, always ensure you add one to the intended story you want to design. So I want to design a 3-story building, but I put 4 here, and then I click on OK and I click yes. And then the next thing I do is there's options here to either generate story, delete, edit. Now I want to edit my story. Now you can see the first story, the height of the story was given as 3000. I want to change that to 2000. I am the designer and I can choose to do whatsoever I want in terms of my design, but it should be in a considerable limit. You should know what you are doing, and also the computer will help you give you whatever you want as a designer. This particular one, I'm giving it as 3200. The next story as 3000. Let me put it as 3100 millimeter. See, or no, I still send it back to 3200 to get a uniform height. And then you can see at this point there is imposed load reduction. If you like, you can apply it. I don't really want to apply that. Foundation depth was giving us 1100 millimeter. I could change it. I could want my foundation to be deeper, and then I click on OK. Now that we've done, now I click on this and then click on story 1. Now in our story 1, we're ready to insert some stuff. Remember, when designing, what we are designing for is our columns, which is this. We design for columns, we design for beam, we design for slab. These are the slab. Sometimes we design for concrete walls. This is it. Now for our column, I'll start with the design for our structure. I'll start with the design of column. I clicked on it. Now for this, there is B1 and there is B2. What does it mean? Let's go to the section manager. B1 simply implies this, which is the breadth, while B2 simply implies the height. Now you can see there are different forms in which your column can take. It can take a rectangular form, can take a circular form, a plus sign form, a T form, an I form, an L, this shape, a hollow shape like this. Now you can see all these things. There is no particular way or method of choosing any concrete. It's left for you to do the choosing yourself and what you feel comfortable with. Like for me right now, I would like to use the rectangular beam, and I'll pick 225 as my breadth, and I'll pick for the height as 225, and that's okay by me. This point I can choose to just highlight all these points as, now you see all the beam appearing here, sorry, all the column appearing here is 225 by 225, and you can see this is for story 1 column 1, story 1 column 2, all their dimension is 225 by 225. And now this for column 1, I can still strategically place these columns where I feel or I deem fit. There is no special way of doing this column. There's not mathematics in placing. It just requires you to place how you feel comfortable with. Now I can change this my breadth to 500. Now you can see, change it, it's going to reflect up immediately. You can see for story 1 column 11 the breadth is now 500 to 225, while here the same thing, 500 to 225. See, I can place this here, 500 to 225, place it here. You can see there is no perfect way for this. I can now decide to change it to 225 by 500. I click on that and I click on OK, and then can be inserted at this point. You can see shape has also changed. Click here, insert. I also insert here too. Now we've gotten this aspect. Now I want to use a different section. I want to use a circular section, and I want the diameter to be different. I just click on circular section, and then this for the diameter I change it to 350, and I come here, I click, I drag, I cover this space, and I move it. You can see the circular section. You can see all what we are doing as we are inserting these columns on the plan view. It was appearing on the 3D and sections too. Now you can see all what we've done has appeared here, giving you a clear representation of your modeling. We are actually modeling right now. Now we are done with the beam for the first two. Sorry, we're done with the column for the first story. The next thing we need to do is to put our beam. I click on beam. Now what is this? What does this beam means? This B simply means the width of the beam, while the H bottom means the depth of the beam. For the width of the beam I prefer using 225. For the depth of the beam, normally like using 400. Now that's good. Click on update. Now there are easier ways I can do this. I can just click and hold and move around this. Or let me stop here. I click, I hold, I stop here, click again, and wait for my beam to be generated. On this point I've clicked, or I hold, I come to this point, I come to this point, I hold, I come to this point, I escape, I hold, I come to this point and I press escape again, I hold, I come to this point and I press escape. To delete your beam, I hold this, sorry, I cancel, I delete the beam properties. Now over here I want to delete this, I hold and I press Ctrl, I hold this, and then I delete. I click on OK. You see we've gotten this shape. We can rotate this if we want by left clicking our mouse and moving the mouse. You can see. Now for the slab, I click on slab. The slab will appear. Now the depth of my slab, I would love it to be 150 millimeter. Sorry, depth of my slab I would want it to be 150 millimeter. Concrete cover is okay at 25 millimeter. And now the loading, I can choose to insert any load I like here, maybe 400, sorry, 4 as my load, 4 kilonewton, or I can choose to get a value from here, which I just did. My imposed load, I can choose to take 2.5, and I click on update so that I can upload those loads on the plan view. And this relative level simply means, do you want your slab to be on the same level with your beam and your column, or you want it to go above it or below it? You can use this relative level to carry your slab a bit above your beam and your concrete if you want. I think I want my slab to be directly at the same level with my beam and my columns. So right now I would insert my slab at different points. You can see while inserting, you can look at this 3D, it has appeared there. I'm inserting. You can see them all appearing. Everything is all appearing. This place I did not put any slab because that would be a place where a staircase will be. Now we've inserted the slab. I can actually choose to do something else. Maybe I want a cantilever at one point of the building, or I come to this, I click on this, and then I pick 12. This is a cantilever. Now I come over here for the length. I pick 1.2 or meter or 1200 millimeter. Now I go to the load to check everything is how I want it. I can change this load. I can change it to lower slab. Any way, anyhow you want it, is all on you. That is you being the designer, but I prefer using a figure. I can use 4. I can enter my value as 4. Now you can see we are good to go. Now I can insert, I want to insert my slab at 2 point, my cantilever at 2 point. Click on the center of the first column and I click on this and I move this way and I click again. I want to also insert it at this point. I click at the center of this column, I move to the center of the next column, click, I come down this way and I click again. You can see that appeared here and it has appeared here. Now that is for this. Now I would want to put maybe my beam wall. How do I put my beam wall on this column? Now I click on a beam. I click on maybe this beam. Sorry, cancel the slab properties. Now click on this beam and I click on edit beam wall load. Now the unit weight of your block in most cases is 2.87 kilonewton per meter square, sorry. And the height of the wall of this our wall is actually given as the total height, which we edited in the story, which was 3200 millimeter, minus the depth of the beam, which was 400. When you do your subtraction in millimeter, you get 2.8, which is equivalent to 2800 millimeter. And the wall thickness, the most time we have two forms of block, the 150 millimeter block and the 225 millimeter. And remember, at this building our beam actually gave you an idea that we're using 225 millimeter block. sorry, the meter. So 0.225, and then I click on OK. That's in our story one. You can see this signifies your block work. You can see. So now what I do is I would have to copy this story, the beam wall load, to different area where it's going to stay. So I click, first of all I click on this and copy the beam wall load, copy beam wall load, and then I click on this. I hold my shift and I move to the last point. I click on this, and then I come back, I left click, and I click on paste copied beam load. Yeah, wall load defined in the selected beam will be replaced by the wall load. Yes. Wait, you can see your walls have been created at different points, but there's some areas I do not want my wall to be in, and I would have to delete the beam wall load there. Now I don't want a wall to be in this area, so I'll click on that, hold my control, click on other area I don't want the beam wall load to be on. I don't want it in those area. I don't want my beam wall load in those area. I don't want it in this area. Now I can right click and click on delete beam wall load. Yes, and it has done that for me. You can see, isn't it beautiful? You can see all what I need has been done. Now what if we actually want to copy the first story is identical to the second story and the third story? What we simply do is we go to this story menu, we click on story menu, we click on generate story. From story 1 we want to generate it to story 2, and we click on OK, click on yes. Now let's cancel and check something out. You can see we've generated it upward because the story under is similar to the story you have upward. You can see, but if it is not a similar story, you would have to pick back your columns at different points where it will stay in this second story and continue like that. I just want to use this as I am actually assuming my stories are identical from story 1 to story 4, and you can see I'll go back again to story menu. I'll click on it, click on it, generate story. From story 2 to 3 I click on OK, and from story 3 to 4 I click on OK. Now I click on close. Now you can see that our beam, now you can see that the beam wall load upward here. So what we do, I would want to remove that beam wall load upward. So I've clicked on it and then delete beam wall load. Click yes. Beam wall load will be deleted on the story 4. Now you can see we've done our job in a very short period of time. I told you AutoCAD is actually user friendly. As you are modeling on the plan, this plan, you can be looking at it at the 3D. So it's actually very simple. Now we're done with that, and on story 4 I actually want to delete the slab because I don't think that's where my roofing would come upon, and I don't want a slab at my roofing point. So I delete, I mark, and I hold my control key, keep marking slabs I want to delete. Click on delete, delete, and OK to be deleted for me. You can see it. It's actually very interactive. You can rotate on how you left click and rotate. You can see everything I need to do has been done for me. Prota structure, like I told you, it's a very interactive plan. Actually very enjoyable if you know your onions. This is the floor plan. This is the floor plan, and I do not want a slab at this point. I can click on it and I delete. I turn at this point. I do not want a cantilever slab here. It was a mistake. I click on it, I delete. You can see extremely interactive structural design application. Now, being we're done with this, now I think the next place we need to be, or the next place we need to go to, is the analysis. I would click on the analysis, go to building analysis. This is Prota structure 218. That's what we are using. It's saving the project before we analyze our building. We're still waiting for modeling to be saved. Now for the building analysis, the first thing that appears is pre-analysis. So let's edit our materials and click on edit material. Now this is my concrete column. First of all, default material, the concrete column, the concrete walls, the longitudinal web bar, horizontal, the concrete beam, the slab, the rib, and the link. That's for the concrete section. Why this aspect are the steel members. Now I can choose that I want to change the concrete strength of my structure, which I would use. Like for my concrete column, I've changed it to 30, grade 30. I want the strength to be 30. Looking for a strength of grade 30. For this I've changed to grade 30. This I'm changing it to grade 30 concrete. This I'm changing to grade 30 concrete, and I click on OK. Changing to grade 30 concrete, and I click on OK. Now I'm done with that. Now for the rebar, which is the reinforcement diameter, for the concrete column, you see they marked a whole lot, but you being a designer, you have to choose. I prefer choosing for myself. I click on this and I click twice on it, select and unselect all. Now what would I use for my column? I would like to use column Y16, that's 16 millimeter reinforcement and a 20 millimeter reinforcement. Click on OK. For my concrete wall, I do not have any concrete wall in this structure, but I still click on it to give, just to pick out what I want as the designer. I'm in charge of my job. The web bar, pick the 10 and 12. Click on OK. The horizontal web bar, I double click, I click on 10, 12 and 10, and I click on OK. Now for the concrete beam, I would like to use Y20. You can choose anything you want, or Y25, and I click on OK. You can click on any diameter of reinforcement that you deem fit for your job, and I click on OK. On the ribs, I click on 10 and 12, and I click on OK. For the links, I always like using Y8, but you can choose any diameter that is favorable to you. I click on OK. Here I click on OK. This particular steel member, we're not using any steel in our job, so I don't want to change the steel properties, so I click on OK. Now for the parameter, I click on parameter. You can see this particular code have been used in several works. I click on the foundation. This is the allowable stress of the soil that you get in your soil report before you start your building, and the soil subgrade coefficient is given to you in your soil report. The lateral loading, you can see already is already picked out. Lateral drift, everything is picked out. This is just the title, the project number, project date, and all that. Now we go back to code. You click on OK. Now you go to your loading combination. In your loading combination, you don't need to do anything. You just click on load generator, and then you click on OK. Your load combination will be generated for you. You click on OK again. You go to your wind story, and to check, and see everything has been arranged for you. Click on OK. Now you go to your model option. All this you don't need to change, but let's just go through it. You can see, and this is settings. Everything is all in place. Now for your analysis, before you start your analysis, it's always very important that you check the building. Like, you check if you made mistake while designing. So for what I do most time, I always do my building check before I go to my analysis. So this is my building check. Now I click on start to see if there's any error in my work. You can see it is loading, it is going through my building to check if there's an error in the work. If there's an error, it will highlight it for you, and then you go back to your work to make sure you change the error, or you change the design or the section that is faulty. You can see over here the building model is complete and number of error is 0. So I click on close. Now I go to the proper analysis. I want to analyze the column and the wall. If there's a wall reinforcement design, I want to analyze the beam, and I click on reselect bars. So click on this, and then I start my analysis by clicking start. Still loading. Wait for it to load completely, and so that we can get our results. might actually take some time for it to load, but you can see there is nothing too difficult about using Prota structure. All you need to be is to be in charge of the job, be the designer, select your column section, select your beam section and your slab section, and then you for your slab you actually input the load and every other thing. It's as simple as that. There is nothing that is so difficult about Prota structure. Trying to ensure that even for a novice, anyone can use Prota structure to design their story building. Um, so that's just literally what I'm doing for beginners. This is as simple as it is. I it is the design is or the building analysis is done. I click on OK. Sorry, go back. And now I click on post analysis. To check my design, for my column, I click on this. You can see all my column passed. All my column passed the design. All the column passed. You can see it. Everything passed. Now for the stereo bar, you can see it's 4x16, and for the links is y8 at spacing of 175 millimeter spacing. Now you can let's open this and check for ourselves. You can see if we want to check how it is being placed. This is it. It has a concrete cover of 25 millimeter. So beautiful, and the B1 and B2 is listed out. This is for B1, this is for B2. So that's it. This is the analysis section. You want to check the shear design, slenderness, the links. All these are all set up here. And like to close, and you see, let's check some other one. For this 4y16 and 2y16, that's for story 1 column 11. You can see how it is being placed, so we know what we are doing. Thank you. Now let's check for the beam, our beam reinforcement design. Let's check to see if we have any failed beam. No, there's no failed beam, so we can open this particular, we can click on this particular beams. You can see how it is being placed. If you want a detailed drawing, we click on this to see how this beam will run. You can see first is how it should be, how your beam should be. From this distance to this distance should be y18 at 30 millimeter. From this distance to this distance should be y8 30 millimeters. This is just a picture of your detailed drawing. This is your top reinforcement, this is your bottom reinforcement, and you can see this is 2y16 and this is 2y16 bottom, this is 2y20 bottom, 2y20 bottom, y2 y16 to see. All this I use in explaining all this for us for better understanding. It's not difficult, it's actually easy. Why this is 3y20 and this is for the top, it's 2y16. Just gives you a visual representation. Close here. I'll click on OK. All are being passed the design, the analysis, the being passed the analysis. We click on close. Now you can see we've done design for the column and the design for the beam. In my next video, I'll be showing you how to design for the slab. So like my video and subscribe to it. Thank you and God bless you.